Hello, my name's Jasper, welcome back to Buckle Up, and welcome to this, the Cupra Born. And today I'm asking, is it any good? Well, let's start at the front with the styling, where you will see a brilliantly purposeful looking face. You've got a very nice pinched nose down here as the bonnet drops away towards the front of the vehicle. Your large Cupra badge in a lovely brushed copper finish. That matches with your very nice brushed copper grille section down here, and this front grille has got some lovely angled, aggressive looking design in it. The headlamps are nice, sporty affairs, very purposeful, lovely daytime running light accents around them, and then your whole front bumper actually looks incredibly sporty, quite purposeful, and actually very good. Special shout out to this paintwork. This is dark forest, also known as a nice matte green, and this is a special paint available only on the VZ trim, which this just happens to be, but more on that later. I like the purposeful but smooth and aggressive stance the front of this car has. Let's see what it's like down the side. Well, to anyone who has seen an ID product over the last few years, the side profile may look a little bit familiar. However, Cupra do make a couple of changes that make this look a little bit better, in my very humble opinion. So, firstly, you've got that front profile, this dipping away but with a powerful haunch here, some lovely crease work along the side of the car. Nice sporty pointy wing mirrors. And then my favourite feature is this running board and the profile that sits in it. This little bit of aerodynamic styling towards your rear wheel. I do think the side profile of this car looks way better than the ID.3. The main difference the Born has on its side profile in comparison to the ID.3 though is the roofline. So look at this. It drops away, it curves down at the back of the vehicle. So yes, that extra little bit of sporty flair that drop away in profile brings, I really do like. I love the diamond styling in this C-pillar back here. I love the blacked in glass and blacked in B-pillar. This extra little quarter light style window here for more visibility and extending that windscreen out for better aerodynamics. And then these alloy wheels, look at these. Diamond cut front but with kind of aerodynamic style interior, 20-inch design, so quite large, quite sporty, but not actually too uncomfortable, surprisingly. The door profile is very smooth, very flowing for aerodynamic reasons, and then at the back here you have your charging flap. Something else that's quite nice is in this rear light cluster, the script Born is written just here. The back is another angle that I really like on the Born. I love the statement light bar across the boot. I love the profile styling where you've got this kind of ridged or ribbed effect as you drop down the car. This big chunky spoiler that hangs over your rear tail glass. Really modern, fresh, sporty styling. You've got, of course, your Cupra badge, which just happens to be your boot release, the Cupra script, and in this case, because this is the VZ trim, which stands for Veloz in Spanish, this is the sportiest Born that you can currently buy. Your lower bumper is a grey plastic, and then at the bottom you've got some diffuser type styling, which really adds to that sporty flair that this car seems to bring in its entirety. Let's have a look inside the boot. So if you open that boot lid, which is manual, you are greeted with 385 litres of space, which is pretty reasonable and weirdly quite comparable to something like the ID.3. Surprise that. There is no false boot floor. You've just got a large, pretty carpeted element that sits at the bottom, and then underneath that there is space for your tyre kit at the very back of the car. You've got a range of different tie down points, 6 in total, which I think is excessive for this size of boot. You do have a handy carrier bag hook over here, as well as a 12-volt socket, and you have a lamp and another carrier bag hook over here too. You get your little first aid kit, which velcros itself nicely to the boot floor, but realistically I would probably put that underneath the boot floor. And then you also get your Type 2 charging cable, which again, if you don't need to carry around with the car, you'd probably just leave that at home and use tethered charging where available. That charging cable will not fit underneath the boot floor. The space back here is pretty usable. It's quite boxy, but there is quite a large load lip. So I do think it's a little bit of a shame this doesn't have a false floor, because that would make the boot space a little bit more accessible, albeit a little bit smaller. A false floor is available as part of the cargo pack, but that is an optional extra. You can see on the back seats though that you do have through loading, which is a very handy feature to have and brings me nicely onto the rear seats. So let's go and check out those. So firstly, in the back, this through loading is very handy and means you can store longer items without having to fold the whole rear seats down. And if you do put them all down, you get up to 1,267 litres of space back here, which is quite good. It's quite a tall space, but it is a nice boxy shape, so you can get quite a lot of stuff back here. However, if you're using the rear seats for passengers, what's it going to be like for them? Well, the floor is a little bit raised because it's an electric car, but I've still got a good amount of under thigh support from these seats. I absolutely love the material that's on here. It's a mixture of kind of vegan leather alternative and squidgy foam covered in a lovely fabric with some contrast stitching elements. The seats feel really nice and supportive, and they are very comfortable. You've got Isofix points on both of these outer seats behind flip down plastic covers that do stay attached so they won't get lost. And then in terms of space back here, it's actually pretty good. So if I put my headrest up, you'll see that yes, at the height of 5'7.5" or 173 centimeters, I've still got headroom between my head and the roof. So somebody who is about 182 centimeters or 6 feet tall should be comfortable enough back here in the headroom department, despite that sloping roof eating into the space a little bit. Now, in terms of knee room, behind my own driver's seat, I've got way too much. I'm completely fine. And even if this driver were taller and the seat was a little bit more reclined, you would still have a little bit of knee room back here. So somebody who's 6 feet tall behind somebody who's 6 feet tall should just fit, but they may be a little bit tight for space. In terms of other features, well, I've got a pair of cup holders with a little one in between them in the center fold down armrest. I've got 2 USB Type-C charge ports down here in the footwell. No center storage bin though. And then decent enough door pockets that do hold a reusable bottle of water. The seats are really nice material, however the door cards do feel a little bit cheap. They are a textured plastic, which does sound quite hollow, and then the door grab handles are sturdy enough, but again, the material choice does make you go, ah, they've cut some costs there. Let's see what it's like up front though. Well, they are nicer in terms of materials than the back seats. I've got some Alcantara or textured micro suede type fabric on the door card by my elbow rest. The door itself is the same kind of textured but cheapish feeling plastic up here, but the dashboard is great. I've got a range of different materials, including some fake leather up here with some lovely bronze contrast stitching in it. The steering wheel is a lovely leather and a range of different nice shiny textured plastics. The central console is again covered in this fake leather with a beautiful brushed copper highlight around it. This is a large roll top central storage area, and down here there's a cubby at the back, a pair of large cup holders, and then here I've got a wireless Qi phone charging pad with a little copper strip above it. And if I lift this micro suede covered armrest, I've got a massive central storage cubby actually. This goes quite deep and you'd get a lot in there. There's a pair of USB Type-C ports down here for connecting to the infotainment system, but you do not have to plug your phone in because this has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The design and layout of the cabin is lovely, really sporty, quite a bit of flair in here. I love the brushed copper elements you get around the air vents. The design of everything is very nice and modern. The seats do reflect that as well. These are sporty bucket style seats. These in this trim are fully electrically adjustable, including lumbar support. The steering column adjusts for both reach and rake, so getting a comfortable driving position is pretty easy. The driver's instrument binnacle moves with the steering column, but your central infotainment screen, which is a little bit iPad stuck on the dashboard, does stay where it is. In terms of other storage in the cabin, you've got a characteristically small glove box because you've got a fuse panel behind the left hand side of it, so that is unfortunate, but Cupra do kind of make up for that in my opinion with this large utility area down here and massive central storage cubby under the armrest. Controls are pretty standard for the newest era of VW products in this segment, so that means my right hand stalk behind the steering wheel is actually a twist forwards and backwards for drive and reverse. Park is a button on the end, and then all of my wipers are controlled from the left hand stalk. This does have full LED headlamps with high beam assist, so you don't actually really need to touch your light controls much, and your wiper controls are built into here. You've got auto wipers, and essentially that's all you need because the auto wiper system in this is pretty good. If we move forward to the steering wheel, you've got a pair of paddles behind it for adjusting the level of regenerative braking. And then my largest dislike with this interior is the mixture between capacitive and haptic buttons on both sides of the steering wheel. They are the thing that I like the least, and that's just because they're not proper buttons and you don't get the same level of clicky feedback when you press them. The whole panel moves and you do get a haptic click to let you know that it's registered your touch, but I'd much prefer proper buttons there. On the left-hand side of the steering wheel is all of your cruise control and your volume controls. And then on the right-hand side of the steering wheel is your controls for interacting with track skip, the infotainment system, and the driver's instrumentation cluster. Down here, you've got two large circular buttons. On the left-hand side, your drive mode selector, and on the right-hand side, a shortcut to get into Cupra drive mode. The final thing to talk about is the infotainment system, which does work, which is more than you can say for some VW Group products from this era, but this is their latest system. It's responsive, it works quite well, the graphics are slick, they're easy to swipe through, the menus load quite quickly, all of the options are pretty easy to get to, but your climate controls are in the screen. They are pretty easy to use, I will give them that. You've got shortcut buttons permanently along the bottom of the screen, irrespective of what drive, display mode or Apple CarPlay you are in. And you do have touch-sensitive sliding bars underneath the screen, but they're illuminated. They're still not as good as proper controls that you can twist or prod with your finger, even if you're wearing gloves, but they are better than having to tap, 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 tap on the screen, so you can at least swipe your finger to quickly adjust the temperature. My only frustration is that you have to tap the climate mode to turn on the heated steering wheel, which this has, 3 stages as well, which is very nice, but if you want, you can actually ask the voice assistant to do things for you. So I can go, "Hey Cupra, turn off the heated steering wheel."
Okay.
So you don't have to tap away on the screen if you really don't want to, but thankfully the controls that you will want most frequently, such as temperature and volume, you do have touch-sensitive slide controls underneath the screen. I'd still prefer buttons though. That's probably enough about the interior cabin. Let's find out if the Spanish sporty flair and styling on the outside translates into a sporty driving experience. The Cupra Born shares its underpinnings with VW's ID.3, and that's because it sits on the same MEB platform that the full ID range of cars is built upon. Now, the Born's power outputs start at 226 PS with 310 Newton meters of torque, and that's with a 58 kilowatt hour battery capacity. This, though, is the fast one. Because of that VZ badge and trim that I've got, that means that I have got 326 PS and 545 Newton meters of torque, which are both very impressive numbers. Despite that significant power and torque boost over the base model of Born, this is only about a second quicker from 0 to 62. This will do the sprint in 5.6 seconds. The lowest trim car will do it in 6.6 seconds. So it's fair to say that all models of the Born are actually pretty nippy. Now, the extra power and torque that you get in this do certainly make it a little bit more fun and potent to drive. So that means that if you do plant your foot and conditions are a little bit greasy, you do get a little bit of wobble from the back end because, yes, this is rear-wheel drive. That being said, so long as your application to the throttle pedal is progressive, it's very easy to make smooth but fast progress. When you do get moving, you will notice firstly that the Born is very quiet inside. The only noise you get really is a little bit of rumble from the tyres. There's almost no wind noise, and you do feel very nice and isolated inside this cabin. The other thing that's massively noticeable when it comes to driving the Born is, well, just how well it drives. It really hugs the road. The fact that you've got the weight low down in the car and very nice wide grippy tyres means that it feels very sure-footed, and you can press on and have the confidence that when you approach a corner, the car will stick to the road. And the really good thing that I enjoy is the turn-in is nice and positive. You don't get a great amount of feel back to your hands, but the steering wheel does weight up nicely if you go for one of the performance or Cupra drive modes. And it's certainly a car that actually offers you a bit of engagement, which is more than you can say for some of the other products on the MEB platform. This is certainly the one that I've driven that offers the most in terms of driver engagement and feedback. And that makes sense because Cupra, at the end of the day, are one of the more sporty brands that sits under VAG. The sporty driving that the Born offers in the VZ trim unfortunately does come at the cost of some efficiency. And when I say that, what I mean is that yes, the WLTP claimed range of this car is about 349 miles, but in the real world, I don't think you'll see anywhere close to that. Now, on the long-term average that this car has been doing, this has averaged over 3,928 miles, 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, if you want to get your 349 miles out of this 79 kilowatt hour battery pack, you need to be doing quite a bit more than that. So what that actually means is that a real-world range in this, in admittedly slightly more demanding driving conditions than potentially your average driver, I've been seeing around 220 to 230 miles on a full charge. So it's not the most efficient car when it comes to driving, but it's very fun. The other thing that I think is definitely worth highlighting about the Born is just how well integrated all of the technology in here is. I can hands down say that the heads-up display in this is the best integrated one that I have ever used. And that's because not only do you get the standard heads-up display thing in terms of speed, lane keep assist, efficiency, speed limit, etc. But also this has augmented reality features. So if you're straying towards the white line at the center of the road or over a lane marking, it will actually illuminate in orange and overlay that lane marking that you should be within over your view in front of you. It also does augmented reality directions for the sat-nav system. So that means that you get a very visible, clear arrow projected onto the windscreen to show you where your next turning is. The level of tech you get within this car is pretty good as well. So you've got the full adaptive cruise control with lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, a reasonable reversing camera and all-round parking sensors. So placing the car on the road and driving it both long and short distances are all pretty easy. The only thing that I wish was included as standard but is in fact an optional extra is a heat pump, because that makes a lot of sense, especially in a climate like the UK where we get colder winters. A heat pump is really beneficial for maintaining some efficiency when you're driving in winter. The Born therefore has pretty good credentials when it comes to both driver engagement but also being a good EV, and I think that's stacked up by the fact that irrespective of which battery choice you go for, whether it's the smaller capacity or the larger one in this, it'll do a 10 to 80% charge in about half an hour. So the car really is well specified and well engineered. My hot take on it from a driving perspective is that actually I really do quite like this. So I think the only thing I'd say is that whilst it may not be the most efficient of EVs because of that bigger motor, it's definitely the most fun one you can get on this platform. So that is the Cupra Born in a nutshell. It is absolutely the best styled and best driving product that VW Group, in this case Cupra, make on this particular platform. I think it's fair to say that this is definitely my favourite EV from VW Group because I absolutely love the styling. The way it drives is excellent, and yes, while it might not be the most efficient one in this VZ trim, if you do want a longer range, you can drop the power output and actually go the distance. So it's therefore a pretty hearty recommendation of the Cupra Born from me here at Buckle Up. That is everything for today's video. So firstly, if you do like what you've seen, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the Buckle Up YouTube channel. If you'd like to support us in a couple of other ways, firstly, our merch store is linked in the video description below. You can go and buy some things with Buckle Up logos on them, or you can become a channel member directly here on YouTube. All of our social medias are also linked in the video description, so while you're down there, please do go and follow us in one or all of those places. I will see you in the next video. Bye.